It's your daily dose of Donna. It is a late episode for me. Oh my goodness, what a day, what a day. I had some live episodes today, and wow, it's a long story, but I recorded live with Dave Neal, which you're about to see. So this is going to be a nighttime episode of Daily Dose of Donna, which is wild. I also recorded a brand new episode of a new show that I'm doing. Ooh, look at that. A new show that I'm doing, which I'm so excited to launch and share with you soon. And I had a lot of other stuff going on. So my whole schedule was thrown off today on St. Patrick's Day, which I'm not wearing any green, but my wall is green. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Monday, March 17th. I hope everyone's doing well today. I hate not going live. I hate not hanging out with my dosers, but these things happen, right? Life happens. And that's why you get a makeup free, one little piece of mascara just hanging on by a thread. How are you guys doing? What a weekend. Lots of content, though, from the weekend. I had Shasti Flo on my show yesterday, and I was on her show. Of course, we talked about Glamour. We talked about all of that fun stuff, the article that came out. So we did have a lot of content. Of course, I was on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram talking a ton. So you got a lot of me. But I was so excited to meet Dave Neal in person today because, we've spoken so many times online and we've been on each other's shows, and I watch him on YouTube and of course on Instagram, etc., every single day, but we didn't actually have a chance to ever meet in person until today. And I knew he was in LA. It was so nice to finally get some face-to-face time. So we met up on over at F22 Studios. That is where my husband's business is. He has a podcast studio. We sat down in the studio where Tom Sandoval shot his podcast. We were in the room where it happens, and we recorded a nice little conversation. We actually talked a little bit about, Blake and everything, but we talked a lot about canceling, getting canceled, comedian life. We talked about his involvement with Clayton and The Bachelor, all that drama and how he got sued. I didn't even know a lot about that. We talked about sexual education. Wow. We talked, now that I think about it, we talked about a lot of stuff. We jumped topics. It's a really fun conversation just to kind of hear two creators behind the scenes conversations about creators and how we cover these things and why we cover these things. And you even get to find out how much money he made during 1 month during Depp vs. Heard, which I was kind of surprised. I was like, whoa, dude, you're doing well. So great conversation. Check it out. And I will be back tomorrow, Tuesday, March 18th, for a live episode of Daily Dose of Donna. Thanks for being here. What were you saying?
Actors care about their close-up and how it's lit well, and but it makes a difference. If you light someone well, they look 10 years younger.
When I did Billy Bush, I was so anxious about the way I was looking because they had the camera so close to my damn face. It was right here. And they were like, don't look at the camera. Look at Billy, who was right there. But they were like, don't look at the camera. The camera was in my nose.
Those digital screens are so distracting.
It was
Some people overdo it. And I know it's not him, it's Howie Mandel, but it's too much. It
was Howie Mandel's office.
Yeah.
It was the coolest place ever. Have you ever seen it?
That's what it's like when you get money as a comic or anybody, or just make a goofy office with beanbag chairs and, it's the gift of not needing to wear a suit.
Howie Mandel has nailed that. And he's a comedian. You're a comedian, Dave Neal.
Yeah.
So by the way, you guys, welcome to Daily Dose of Donna. I've got Dave Neal.
It's Dov Neal.
Welcome to Daily Dose of Dana with Dov Neal.
That's it.
I've got Dave Neal in the flesh. It's a mommy and daddy sleuth kind of day. And I flew him out to Los Angeles for this.
Right.
Now that I'm ringing in the big bucks.
Middle economy seat, yeah. I had an aisle, and then I had to switch something, and then they bumped me in the middle.
For a baby, probably, right?
I just switched my return flight to a later flight, but it made them have to rebook my initial flight, and I lost my aisle.
Why?
Which I was surrounded by two Samoan men, which, by the way, if you've ever been surrounded by someone and you just embrace touching their arms, it becomes kind of comfy.
Did you feel secure?
It's just, you get over it.
Now that you've been touched on a plane, do you understand Blake Lively? And do you understand how feeling uncomfortable?
I filed a claim.
I was going to say.
I was touched and I liked it. I touched a man and I liked it. Listen, I mean, I'll never know what it's like to be on a, to be a female on a set where there's 90 guys watching and all of that. But obviously we've covered this case, and you want to support people, you just need to see the evidence, right?
Yeah, we're going to get into that in just a moment. Yeah. But before we get into that, tell me more about your Samoan experience.
Well, it was a good flight. I mean, I was like, I'm flying alone. Like, I have a baby. I love I miss my family so much. I miss my baby so much.
It's only been 24 hours.
I know, but I just switched my lock screen to him. Look at that. Get that on the ISO. He's so dang cute. And like, I traveled when he was a couple months old for a gig, and he didn't know, and he still doesn't know. But it's just like, it's almost like that belief that I'm more important than I am. He's breastfeeding. He's latched to my wife's bosom, right?
When she breastfeeds, where do you look?
I get in there. I go cheek to cheek with them. First of all, you learn so much. I'm gonna mansplain breastfeeding to you.
Okay.
But the amount I've learned about the female body, okay. I'm gonna grease your gears here. It is so amazing. Men don't stand a chance with the miracle of being a mother. Holy cow. To think that, my son, his saliva, as it connects to the nipple, will tell her what type of breast milk to produce based on if he has any deficiencies. Are you kidding me?
Is that how it works?
If someone walks by and coughs near my wife, her body's producing new things to protect the baby. It's incredible. It's insane.
Is this how it works?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, and if someone has breastfed before, they are also, in some cases, able to re-breastfeed for someone else's baby.
This feels like a conspiracy theory.
I know. And I'm the one being like, guys, did we know this? Or am I just learning? Like, I grew up Irish Catholic. I learned about sex from, a book my mom rented from the library.
Yeah.
Like, here, figure it out. You know? My uncle told me, because I was raised by a single mom, my uncle was like, so, are you good? That was the talk. I was like, I'm good. So I thought the vagina was right below the belly button. Like I thought it was an inch below.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
And so when I was like 11 years old, I went to one of those music stores where they had the posters. Do you know they had the
when
posters?
you had in the
so
plastic.
You would flip them like it's Tinder. Yeah. And you're flipping them and it's like a Lamborghini and then like David Hasselhoff and then it's Pamela Anderson. And you open it and you can like hear the music, the volume go, wah, and you open it and she had a photo of her with the top button undone, like unraveled a few. And I was like, did they airbrush over her vagina?
Oh.
Where is it? I was off by like half a foot.
Why there?
I just thought it was more like you go like straight.
Because the baby's there.
Probing. Because I was just taught that, I mean, trust me, other guys are going to back me up on this. Until you look at the science of it all, you're just like, oh, okay. I just didn't know.
My husband's in the room. I'm going to have to ask him.
He's like, nah.
Where he thought it was.
I saw pornography at a very young age.
Okay, so we have
Okay. It's confusing.
We have an adult that got early access to porn.
I thought it was like in Looney Tunes when they paint the hole on the cave?
Yeah.
And it's like straight in. I thought that's what they did. They just paint it over. I thought it was like straight to you.
Oh my God.
There's a whole different thing happening.
It's a very dynamic situation. It's shocking that we actually ended up alive and like found a way.
Sexual education is so horrible in this country that you'll find other colonial places like Australia, even Canada. They're like, yeah, whatever, who cares? They're fluid. We just don't know anything.
Nothing.
We're not taught it in class. And now states are like taking, getting like abstinence only. Like, cool, let's see how that works out for you. I mean, it's just like.
I don't know a lot about any of this. I know that my kids are getting sex ed at school.
I think you should. I think you should get like a robust understanding of what's going on. So I'm learning about nipples and breast milk. And I don't even know, no one even knows what a vulva is. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
It's like we just don't have the education to even know about our body parts.
You don't have a vulva.
I've been told.
When did you find that one out?
Like right now.
I'm so glad you learned that today.
It's 2025. Don't tell me what I have and don't have.
Should I not misgender you or label you? I don't know.
No,
maybe.
But look, it's like it's good to. I think some people are afraid to like not know something.
Yeah.
And with comedy, it's okay to say, like, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
I didn't know where the vagina was located. That can be funny and also true.
Let's talk about that. You are a comedian. So as a comedian, in 2025. So and this is where things get a little tricky. The whole idea, when does comedy stop being funny and start being offensive? That line. Do you find a lot of comedy offensive?
I wouldn't tell the joke to my wife's parents that I would tell to my friends. So you need to know the venue.
Got it.
The problem with the internet is it takes the venue and provides it to people that wouldn't normally come see you. I've never, ever had someone come up to me after a show and complain about a joke. And I don't post much of my jokes online, but like it allows for the offense. And Patrice O'Neal, the late great Patrice O'Neal, said it best. Like, it's the attempt at being funny. Nothing else matters. And people will really argue that have never done comedy. They go, but what are you talking about? And it's like, you got to think about something, say it out loud. A lot of times it's in front of a live audience, and then you figure it out. I mean, I've seen people, I know comics that are working out jokes that I would be afraid to even talk about here. And maybe they'll make it funny and maybe they won't. And when it does reach that point, put it this way. If you're a Broadway show, they allow you the right to show the Broadway show while it's in reviews, because you're working it out. Don't judge me on my show until we tell you, here's the show. So when Spider-Man was going on, you know, they were throwing the Spider-Man off the walls. Like, they couldn't, he's like, don't review it yet. We're still working out the kinks. They're on their 9th Spider-Man. They've all got neck braces.
Yeah, they're all like injured and breaking things.
But they do have to work that live performance out in front of a live audience. And with comedy, that's what happens at the comedy clubs. Like, you might have a comic who's got like genius opinions about things, still kind of figuring it out. And sometimes it might take 10 or 20 years before they really transcend that, like, and communicate to people with humor and with like maybe sometimes a social message, maybe not, but you know, the internet has exposed people that might not be ready for that.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen so many comics just go so off base and get, you know, and I think it's also timing. Like a few years ago was the worst time. I mean, I've mentioned now Billy Bush twice, right? Like, talk about someone that's gotten canceled. He's not a comedian, but like, there's so many comedians that have just gotten completely wiped off the map because they said the wrong thing at the wrong time to the wrong venue, or it got picked up on camera or whatever.
It's pretty rare to actually get canceled. There are and people argue about what is canceled and what's not. Sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not. But don't tell me that Louis C.K. wasn't canceled, even if he was able to work after. He had a $30 million movie investment that got cut and other things. So like, the canceling is there. It's almost immoral. It's like, it's there regardless of what you think about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's justified. A Bill Cosby. Sometimes it's not. Billy Bush, where you go, look, here's a guy at his own workplace. You could argue that Billy Bush could have filed an HR complaint. He was just trying to get along. The tension that was built from that secret conversation, the tension that came from that was, I need to let it out on somebody, and Trump's untouchable, so they could get to Bush. And it's more of a product of corporate media and how you can get to somebody if you can get to their boss.
Yeah.
Who's my boss? Who are you going to go to?
Mr. YouTube.
Yeah, and then podcasting. I mean, I've got 7 different revenue streams, right?
Yeah.
That all come from places that don't get pushed around by the culture, where 12 people with a megaphone can really raise hell.
Yeah.
But you could do that. 12 people. If I had a job, I was talking to Reality Steve about this when he was kind of in the throes of it. If he worked for like BuzzFeed, he would have been gone. They would
2 seconds.
But he was able, because he had that equity and that trust with his audience, he was able to give a good apology, do better, and prove that. And where are we in society if we're not going to try to let people do better?
Yeah.
What are we trying to do?
So I find that so interesting, because I am a big fan of giving people times and opportunities to do better. You know, just recently, Hannah from Giggly Squad, Hannah Berner, you know her, right? Comedian.
Yep.
She's had like some run-ins with saying the wrong thing a few times, right? She's a comedian. She does her Netflix specials. She was just recently on that Netflix 50th. I don't even know what it was. It was like a Netflix big 50th special or whatever it was called. And she said something about Blake Lively, and it got picked up. And then she did the Oscars red carpet thing just last week or 2 weeks ago, where she spoke to Megan Thee Stallion. Do you remember this story? And she said something that was taken really, it was a bad comment. She said, when I listen to your music, it makes me want to fight, or something. When I want to fight, I listen to your music, which I think what she meant to say was, it hypes me up. But because she said the word fight, it was perceived as a microaggression. And a lot of women specifically a lot of men and women saw it as a racist comment. And then she sat on it for
Tough gig, though.
very tough
To
gig.
be live and get it right 99 times.
I would 100% fail. There's no way I could do that.
Give me the tape.
Can you imagine?
And not to say that, like, you don't, what people don't understand, and you know, if anyone wants to have a sort of a bad, if someone wants to mischaracterize me, they'll go, who's this white guy to talk about this? I get it, but it's just the only skin I have, right?
Right.
So I talk about it the way I see it. And yeah, that's a medium where what might work in a comedy club, and you might vet a story and figure it out and work on the phrasing, doesn't work live in the event. And it's in that way, it's dangerous.
And you can't pull it back. The second you say it, it's out. You can't be like, oh, shite, I didn't.
But I think most people understand when you're trying your best and not. There are people online, like you, if you want to get into the Glamour article, there are people online that will consistently be like bad faith TikTokers, and there's content people that are toxic. Like they will exist.
Yeah.
Just like there's local journalists that stink, and you don't know about them. You only know about the good ones.
Yeah.
So when the Glamour lady, Stephanie McNeil, calls out content creators, everyone gets triggered because it's tough to generalize people. I feel like the younger brother who's like, hey, let's all calm down. Like, you know, everyone's doing their best. You don't understand because you work for this way. Like, you know, the corporate journalist doesn't know what the content creator goes through, having the day-to-day communication with their audience.
So over the weekend, and I've talked about this, you've talked about this, Glamour magazine came out with this scathing article, I thought, that was really against content creators, but it was a general article that there was this hate campaign fueled by mommy sleuths, of course, and you.
Which is Candace Owens' term. Candace Owens said it. I call it mommy sleuths. And if you say, it's like one of those things, if you say it and don't say it as like a derogatory thing, it's like, yeah, there are people that are stay-at-home moms and dads, and everyone across the political spectrum has talked about this. But when so many people are talking about a pop culture story, you can surgically look at it and say, well, it's all right wing. Really?
Right.
Because I've been really working hard to try to get universal health care, paid maternity leave, and a lot of things that I think are, you know, taxed to billionaires. And you're going to use my thumbnail in one of the stories. They use my thumbnail with
Taylor Lorenz,
with all these content creators.
So they pinpointed you as this crazy right winger.
Yeah,
as if you are, which you're definitely not in any way.
Just get it right.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Right.
So you actually, Steph McNeil, the author of this article, which was really it felt like a hit piece, didn't focus in any way of the why. Maybe this hate campaign, which she calls a hate campaign, I don't see it as a hate campaign, but I can see that there's a lot of hate going that way. I do. I would agree.
It'll exist. Like, there's a huge audience.
Sure.
There's hate, but there's also people championing, you know, the victims and wanting them to have their story told.
Of course.
So
and
it's
there's
all
also,
how you look at it.
Yeah, and there's also a ton of people on the opposite side that we're seeing as well on Threads, for example. Like, so many people that are going the opposite way.
Oh, really?
Oh, my gosh.
Like pro Blake?
Oh, my gosh. You're not seeing that?
I just don't like being put into a box, and I'll tell you why. I covered Johnny Depp, Amber Heard.
Okay.
And I had a lot of success with my channel. You know, the month I covered it, I probably made 40 grand covering it.
Well, there you go, you guys. You got the numbers. You got the number. You want?
I mean, I had video, but I had video that exposed, actually, it's apolitical, but I exposed NBC.
Tell me.
Because when they interviewed Amber Heard, they changed their color scheme when they had it on the Morning Today show from the Dateline, which we know they're going to do that. But here's the problem with corporate media, right? They stretched the interview out for the Today Show. Then more coming tonight. Then they stretched it out again. How long are you going to milk this by stretching it? Like, at least we'll just, here's a story. Like, and by all means, we'll cover it ad nauseum. But for them to think that they're better because they're doing it, you know, selling Listerine is banana land. And what I learned was, they edited what Amber Heard was saying in the morning different from the evening. And people said, well, they do it for time. They didn't do it for time. They changed the conversation. And I was able to show both versions on my editing software and just show you what they took out. And taking a sentence out can change a lot of things.
Sure.
So when we see the Blake Lively case and you take away an emoji or the context of text messages, these are hundreds of millions of dollars worth of text messages when it comes to what the truth is.
Wow.
And God forbid we are trying to get it right. Now, to give Stephanie McNeil grace, there's no amount of a written article that can fully compete with the amount of bandwidth we've thrown at this thing.
Mm-hmm.
We have audiences of hundreds of thousands of people that have come together to flip every stone. So no matter what she writes, it's going to lack some nuance, but she almost willfully lacked that nuance.
She came back and she did like a 2-minute, video where she went after the money. And that was a real misstep.
Okay,
I thought.
can I? I'm going to argue her point.
Well, I was going to read your comment.
Okay, but let me argue her point first.
Sure.
So her point, I think, in good faith, was I can't be biased because I'm on salary. I think that was her point, saying, hey, I don't work for the click, so it's not a big deal. I understand how people took offense to that because, yeah, you got to throw together a pretty mean-looking thumbnail. But the content on YouTube and the long-form content creators have been pretty good. I think I've been pretty good with this. But I always, and this is a comedian in me, whenever I see the group all going in one direction, I try to do that. I try to provide Stephanie McNeil some faith. It's not because I'm trying to kiss her ass. It's just saying, if she's wrong, I want to give as much space for her to be wrong to figure it out. And that's what I was trying to do, is give her some grace. And some people have to argue online.
Mm-hmm.
I had people call me like weird names. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna take the bait and argue with a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thriving. I'm busy.
Yeah.
I've got to go on Donna's podcast.
Yeah, duh.
I'm not, but you can get sucked into those random spats with strangers. And the Stephanie McNeil issue is kind of one of the most interesting things here, because you have mainstream media, although Glamour's pretty much become a blog, right?
Sure.
And you have mainstream media fighting with new media, and new media is just not going to lose.
There's no way. We're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and our influence is getting bigger and bigger and bigger by the moment, while Glamour is not. But you're saying that because she gets paid by a salary, she doesn't have a bias, but her article is written in incredibly biased tone.
I agree. I agree. I don't think I love the idea that the CIA guy is behind every story.
I don't think that.
I think it's more nuanced where, well, they're going to take the pro side of it's almost like pro corporation, really, because Ryan Reynolds is the beast. It's a beast, right? Ari Emanuel didn't become a billionaire for nothing.
Yeah.
They make hundreds of millions off of that guy.
Yeah.
Off of Ryan Reynolds and his empire, and Blake
Sure.
Lively's attached to that. So I think on face value, you read the New York Times article, the initial one, and you go, yeah, this guy's a monster. You need to have space to move your opinion when you hear his rebuttal.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in the courtroom. In the courtroom, everyone gets a say in a rebuttal and a cross-examination. And that's all we've done. We have all the time in the world to do that. And with that well, we haven't seen the trial yet, but with his response, we go, well, I've seen the evidence. I don't see overt anything that should ruin someone's career over. I just don't see it. I don't see any text messages. I don't see any of that. I see someone who coerced him under duress to sign paperwork to get her back on set.
Sure.
And but I don't think everything's CIA conspiracy theory, but I definitely think she's going to be doing PR that tries to move the story away from her. Even if it's not a pro-Blake story, these conversations about other things going on is a win for them.
Yeah. Because now it's all of a sudden that the blame is kind of off of her, and now it's on the hate, and it's almost like they're the victims
Which
of
sucks
this.
Because every single time, if an American steals a wombat from Australia, yeah, that's a bad thing to do. But then she's going to get death threats because the internet's crazy. Well, I'm getting death threats. Well, you shouldn't be getting death threats. You should be getting gently shamed. Don't do that again.
Yeah.
So the internet, the momentum and collateral damage is always far exceeding. No one should be getting into the personal lives or threatening people over this.
100%.
But someone's going to do it. But I can say that what Luigi did is bad, but I didn't pull the trigger. Do you know what I mean? I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't send hate mail to Blake, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't cover the story because she's going to be getting a ton of hate.
Well, Stephanie McNeil, then turned it around and posted on her Instagram reel. She pinned a comment. I don't know if you saw this last night, saying it's gotten too far. You're calling me a bad mom, et cetera, which I didn't see any comments doing that. And that's wrong. I don't think any of this has anything to do with what kind of mother she is.
It almost proves the point she wants to make. But it doesn't. But it also then exactly shows what almost Blake Lively is doing in this case. You started the lawsuit. You put it out to the New York Times. You open the door. You can't now become the victim if you start the fight. See it all the time with the internet.
Right.
Oh, I'm getting death threats. Really? Are these what is the scale of death threats you're getting? Because I get told to kill myself every day.
Constantly.
And it's like, Dad, sorry, you know, but no, it's like, my dad's dead.
Even
so
worse.
One there. But it's like the nuance gets removed because the internet has enough sample size for anyone to prove their point.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's the right point, but so Stephanie McNeil might feel like, well, I've been a victim of this crazy. And it's like, yeah, they'll be there, but trust me, I get people every day thinking I'm pro Blake or pro Justin.
Sure.
And like I was saying about Johnny Depp, after covering that case, I agreed with the jury, which is that she didn't prove her point. Mainly, my main thing was the ACLU argument. She said she donated to ACLU, but she never did. And that enough alone is for me to be like, well, if you lied about that, I can't trust anything you have to say.
And that's how I feel about the Blake case.
Blake with the pornography and there are a few different things.
Just the one thing, which is if you're omitting certain text messages, now we can't trust anything in that complaint.
I had dealt with that with the Bachelor Clayton, where his accuser was cherry picking things, and it's like the honest person doesn't have to cherry pick. We have all the time in the world to share it.
Yeah.
So that's where I stand. But with the Johnny Depp thing, there was a list put together of like pro Johnny Depp people. Some people on that list had CPS called on them, which can lead to death. People have died from having CPS or being swatted.
Yeah.
People have died from that, and you can't hide where you live.
Yeah.
You know, you can try your best, but you can't. And I've covered this case like I covered the Bachelor Clayton case, where I knew I was going to get sued from it.
I can't believe it. So just give like a 5-minute rundown on that, because I don't know
Clayton
that much
was
about it.
accused of being the father of someone's unborn twins. After exposing and being threatened with a lot of lawsuits, we exposed medical fraud where she lied to at least 3, if not 5 different men about being pregnant. And we were able to prove her fraud, and she ended up admitting to part of it in court. She lost. But all 3 men still have restraining orders against them from her. She called the FBI on me. She sued me.
Why you? Because you
I was the
exposed it?
reporter, yeah.
You were the only one out there exposing this?
For a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, no one else, because she threatened everybody. And it just so happened that I was the Bachelor news guy. Reality Steve was big too. He didn't back down. We exposed through reverse Google searching multiple ultrasounds that were stolen. We found a Fiverr logo on one. She admitted to altering documents. She never got seen by an actual doctor. And we also found out she faked cancer in 2016, along with domestic violence and multiple other things. And it's going to become a documentary because an audience came together to raise over $25,000 for my legal defense, Clayton's legal defense, and we raised $5,000 for an expert, a criminal forensics expert, to look at a laptop to verify that she sent these text messages to coerce a guy to date her. It was all about coercion and power. And now she's running a scheme where she's getting a GoFundMe for her dad because he was a famous radio DJ. Her father was a radio personality in the Radio Hall of Fame.
Who?
Ron Owens in San Francisco.
So where is she in San Francisco?
She's in Scottsdale now, and she's still on online dating. And and by the way,
literally...
she only gave head. She only blew Clayton.
Oh, thank you.
Sex.
Good to know.
Yeah, he couldn't find her vagina.
he kept going straight.
Where is this thing? Knock knock.
Oh my God! And
So
he just got the paternity results. No,
there were never results because there was never a baby.
Didn't he just post something the other day?
Well, no. So like they did a genetic test, and there was little to no fetal DNA, and she still said she was pregnant. She kept on testing positive with a pee on stick, which we don't know if she went to Mexico to get HCG, which is in diet supplements. We don't know if it was through horse fertility drugs.
What?
But she tests positive on a stick, very faint. Trust me, when my wife got pregnant, she tested like a hard pregnancy.
I mean, I had like 9 tests, and they got darker and darker.
They get darker.
And
they get darker because it's like a COVID test. If it doesn't hit you hard, it might be very faint. So they get darker. So it goes up in scale. And so she sent me the HCG test to prove that she was pregnant, and I didn't know what to do with it. And then months later, when like I was getting threatened with like $120 million lawsuit for defamation.
Oh my gosh.
And they do these threats privately, and I was exposing it all publicly to show people what was happening. And even amidst those threats, she finally got subpoenaed to share her medical information. And I think she forgot she sent me this because she sent it to me and Clayton. He had blocked her, so he never got it. So I was the sole recipient of this specific piece of medical fraud, which said her HCG level was 143,000. It was 102, period, which is like day 3 of pregnancy.
Yeah.
So she... and I had to go out there and say, look, I think she's going to fake miscarriage. I had to like tell my all-female audience this is going to happen, and it did. and we called her bluff every step of the way. She also faked being a black journalist, which we were later able to prove. She faked being the doctors who claimed she had ovarian cancer. She actually used the same photo to fake ovarian cancer that she later used to say that this man committed DV.
This is like Anatomy of a Scandal. You know that
This is going to be a documentary.
It has to be.
And it's too hard to tell right now, but I covered it for a year and a half.
And you got sued by her.
She sued me for harassment. She called the FBI on me. She wrote the district attorney. She tried to do everything under the book. She sued me. She called the FBI for revenge porn because I shared her belly bump, but she wasn't naked. It wasn't revenge porn. It was a public image she already shared.
She is Blake Lively.
So she tried to get a restraining order against me, but the judge struck it down on First Amendment rights. She literally sent me the receipt of the process server that she paid to expedite to find me. So I was literally going outside with my GoPro stick. I was at comedy shows waiting to get served. It got rejected and I never got served, but I still hired, I still paid the 10 grand for, to be represented. And people were like, oh, you're overpaying. And I was like, you don't understand what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with someone who you have to nip this in the bud. We still think she's going to sue for emotional distress because she's lost a ton of weight.
Yeah.
But it's all the consequences of her own actions. She's got a major problem and multiple men have had their livelihoods affected. I mean, this one guy, Mike, just had his second baby and he also just got fired from a job. He can't keep a job.
Wow.
And he works in tech
because
they get to the next level of HR. Who wants to deal with a guy with a restraining order for DV?
Wow.
It's all made up.
Wow. And was your wife at any point saying, Dave, this is not a good career?
So we were covering this in the fall when she was pregnant and hadn't told people yet. So it was very personal to us to really know the fragility of like an early pregnancy and any pregnancy. At any moment, we were just so nervous and like excited, but also like, thinking what's the best case scenario, worst case scenario. And here we have a petulant child in her 30s living at home, failure to launch, using anything she can to get her way.
Yeah.
Faking the black journalist, faking the Asian doctor, faking the Jewish agent to try to coerce one guy to do a radio show with her, faking contracts.
Wait, we've got all diversities in this.
She'll use anything she can.
The Jewish agent, the black.
She allegedly, I'll say allegedly for this part because I don't want her to start a new lawsuit. Allegedly scammed out a Native American contractor who lost over $100,000 working on her property when she kept on changing what she wanted.
This is wild.
So it is wild. It needs to be stopped. Now she's being investigated by the county prosecutor Rachel Mitchell in Scottsdale, and she may go to jail.
This is a crazy story.
But it's because of my audience who got the funds to Clayton and said, you need help. You need to get on paper. Because if she goes, oh, I'm no longer pregnant, case closed because it was a paternity case. But because he took it to the next level and did a motion for them to continue the case to basically prove paternity, because it got to that level, they were then fighting over who's going to pay the bill. Right? She lost $150,000. And now it's in the appeals. Right. So it's the parasocial aspect of the Clayton case that you understand the audience cares a lot because they want justice.
Yeah.
Where we are now with Blake and Justin is they're giving justice to Justin, which is looking like, I guess, oppression of Blake because there will be haters.
Yeah.
Like their internet's crazy.
Yeah.
There's going to be those people. I don't vouch for them, but they are out there. There's people that just want to get online and argue. It can't make you not do your job.
Of course. And this is not the first time that we've seen this, obviously. Anytime you're talking about, this is just happens to be a court case, but anytime we're talking about anything when it comes to a reality show, just say, obviously with Scandival, which is funny because we're in the room where we were just saying this is where Tom Sandoval recorded his podcast.
It still smells like it.
It smells like Tom.
That radioactive, his shadows burned on the wall.
Cheetos, cigarettes, a little bit of coffee.
By the way, he was at one of my stand-up shows.
Tell me.
And it was so funny because I wasn't having a great set, but he was I could hear his laughter. And I was like, I'll be a Tom Sandoval fan if he wants to laugh at my jokes. But I was like, what does this say? What is this saying about me?
Well, Tom Sandoval won me over back on The Traitors this last season. Did you watch?
I didn't watch that, but I watched Special Forces.
Okay.
And I see somebody who was, and talk about grace, I see someone who was rewarded for debauchery for 10 years, right? The only way the show continues is if they provide him, Lala, if they go there and deliver chaos. I'm not saying you should cheat on your partner or all that. The fallout was insane. I was on my honeymoon in Bali when I heard about it. I was like, I'm in Indonesia hearing about Scandival.
Yeah.
And it was so big because it was like a gotcha moment. And it was justice for Ariana, which I'm all about. Like, get whatever you can out of it. Get whatever you want out of it.
Yeah.
And eventually, Tom Sandoval, he can he tried his best to like say, hey, it was wrong, but this is what I was feeling, and no one wanted to listen to it. I enjoy hearing people explain why they did what they did, even if it's wrong.
Totally.
I want to hear about why did he feel like this was an easier route than breaking up?
It's a very, very interesting story, and I get the hate and I get the anger and I understand the dynamic because it was, the way it was done and et cetera. But now 2 years out, we're 2 years out, and he got killed.
And it's like, yeah, I get it, but like, he wasn't wrong when he said, I'm getting more hate than like people that murdered people.
Literally getting more hate than like the Menendez brothers.
But then again, you got to turn it off because I'm sure no one's throwing eggs at him live. Like I've been with some villains, some reality TV villains, and like they can walk the streets perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It's the internet. And again, it's not me vouching for him. It just goes to show society. It's a weird place to get tarred and feathered online, and you just need to avoid it. And it's hard because it's a generation of people that get their dopamine from it.
Yeah.
And now you're getting the opposite. It's just like, turn it off. Like find a way to turn it off and go be a better person. Like he doesn't seem like a good guy from what he did. But there's a lot of like scumbags.
Yeah.
And that relationship seemingly should have been over years earlier, or they were holding on to it or whatever. But I doubt it was the first person he cheated on. And again, the person who wants to mischaracterize what I'm saying is like, oh, Dave's pro cheating. No, not at all. Just like as audience, we're watching the zoo. We're watching these characters play out. And that's it.
Yeah.
Now we have in a world where we can comment, okay, fine. It's a little weird.
It's very weird how easily it is to judge from afar. I think we all do it. It's very easy to do that. But when you are actually in that position, it's something you're going through, which is what I talked about with Shasti yesterday on YouTube about this Stephanie McNeil also, how easy it is for her to say all these horrible things. But if her husband was accused of something like Justin Baldoni, would she blindly believe the woman? Would she blindly believe the Blake Lively in the case?
You have a lot of women and moms that have sons.
Yeah.
That look at this differently. I told my wife this because like my wife's a feminist, like God bless her. And in the standard term, I would say I am too.
Yeah.
But I think the best way to be that is to be like not one who shouts it, but like does the right thing, elevates people and respects them and all that. And learns from wherever misogyny they come from. I come from some small town where like I come from you gotta grow. You gotta get out of your bubble and grow, right? And yet my wife now with a 10-month-old boy, she's going to have to look at the fact that there'll be a day when he's no longer seen as a boy and it'll be seen as a threat.
100%.
And again, by the way, 1,000 times when that's a black boy, 1,000 times worse. It breaks my heart when we do it to young women, when we sexualize young girls, right? We'll like sexualize them like the Brooke Shields of the industry. It's like, it breaks my heart that outside forces will sort of treat people as adults when they're not there yet and pull them out of this sort of bubble we built. That's like the pure little bubble, right? And again, Justin can fight his own fight, but don't think he's not going to go to bat. Like when I was going to bat for myself, I was going to bat for my wife and an unborn baby when I was defending myself from these defamation claims. Because what's more important than protecting whatever status quo was protecting my own.
Yeah.
And Justin's in that position.
It's so true.
And that's like, and if he did it and gets exposed, then there'll be consequences.
Absolutely.
But she's the one who has to prove it. And with everything that's been shared, people don't buy it.
And that's not a crime to not buy it. Like we're just going through the day to day and we have no ulterior motive except to just go through the motion and believe what we're seeing. We're all seeing the same.
And I don't change how I believe other people because of this.
Yeah.
I just look at it. There was a guy that was on the Patriots this year. I think his name's Jabril Peppers. He was accused of some pretty crazy stuff, and they had to kick him off the team. He was a captain. They kicked him off the team. He actually had video that exonerated himself. And it was like, good. And now he's back on the team. And they're not canceling him. And it's like, all right, they let the system play out. And these instances where there are lies and manipulation, they don't happen to necessarily random everyday people all the time. They happen to athletes, guys who just got a big bag of money.
Yeah.
Who's like, oh, some hot chicks in my DMs. Like they're selected to these situations where there's like people in these alpha positions, whether it's Blake possibly wanting to have more control. Like they happen in these oddball scenarios. So when they do happen, it's not like this is everyday news. This is a once in many years entertainment story.
Totally. I mean, this is going to be this is why it has such public interest from people that never cared about celebrity news, that never are interested in stuff like this. They don't even know who Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni maybe are, but they're interested in what it means in general, the PR of it, the Hollywood of it, or just the general idea of a woman uses the term sexual harassment and what kind of snowball effect that has. But we will see how this goes. I mean, obviously we could talk about this for hours and hours, and we will continue to talk about it because it doesn't end with us,
and we're allowed to, and people can tune out when it no longer piques their interest.
Exactly. You can always change a channel. But Neal, tell everyone where they can find you. Obviously I'll link everything below, but
where can you not find
seriously, you're everywhere.
Morning and afternoon, the Rush Hour podcast with Neal. 25-minute bite size. I give you everything I got in the morning and then every afternoon. And it's up earlier on the audio, but it's audio, it's video. I started doing video just the beginning of this year, and it's been a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I believe in it, and it's a little different than most podcasts out there because I'm just like giving you some politics, some pop culture in today's world. I don't think you can separate them. And it's been a smashing success. It's been fun. Yeah, it's been fun.
That's awesome. I'm so happy to have you here in LA.
I know. It feels surreal to be here.
Come back anytime.
Will do.
Thanks for being here.
Of course.